Hello, my name is Barbara Kay, and on behalf of my co-host Susan Pertnoy and the Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County, I'd like to welcome you to our program, MOSAIC.
Our focus today is the Jewish Federation's main event with a special guest star, Mo Rocca. We'll be back with our guests and our program after this brief message.
Community, like every gift, counts. Together, we can ensure a vibrant Jewish future. Federation and you, changing the world together.
It was a shock when my smart, strong husband had a stroke. His mind was agile, but everything else failed him. I didn't see how he could possibly recover. But through patience, skill, and compassion, the caregivers at Morse Life brought him back to himself. They brought him back to me.
Morse Life Short-Term Rehabilitation. Morse Life. Honoring senior living.
What if you could change the world? You can. We can do it together. With the Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County, you are here, and we are all connected. Together, we can enrich Jewish life, care for vulnerable populations, and build global Jewish community. That's what we do, every day, here at home and around the globe.
Welcome back, and welcome Steve and Stacy Ellison, co-chairs of our Federation's main event. First of all, you have a very special and unique relationship with our Jewish Federation. Who would like to tell us about that?
I'll let you tell about that.
Okay. Well, Stacy and I have been married for almost 23 years, but we met when Stacy was the director of the Young Leadership Division, and I was the campaign chair for the Young Leadership Division over 25 years ago. And jokingly talked about going to Disney World for a weekend as our first date, and ended up doing that several months later after we were planning an event.
That's
Right.
really good.
Right, I moved here. The reason I moved to West Palm Beach was to work for the Federation. So
That's really unique,
Yeah.
and you know what? You could be an incentive for a matchmaking organization, Federation lay leaders and professionals. But seriously, the two of you have been leaders in our Federation and agencies for a long time. Steve, you were president of the Meyer Academy. You're on the board of the Jewish Federation. Stacy, you have been incredibly involved in the JCC, both I think on the executive board and partly in Boynton as well.
yes.
What motivates your involvement?
Well, I think for me, one of the main, I know I moved here to work there, but then having kids living in this community and wanting to make it a place where, they really felt a part of the community, I think that's a huge motivating factor for me and for both of us.
Where did you get your sense of philanthropy?
It's a tough thing to talk about in terms of really pinpointing anything. Growing up, I always had some sense that there were people who had things a little harder than I did, and that I always felt like there were general obligations that you had, a responsibility to the community as a whole to do something. My parents were involved in various organizations to a lesser extent than Stacy and I have been involved, but Hadassah and B'nai B'rith and things of that nature. But really, I think I got more involved once I graduated from law school and realized that there was a much broader community than I realized, both Jewishly and also from a general perspective. I've also worked with some folks who really have emphasized the concept of philanthropy and being involved in a community, and really have found myself inspired to do lots of better things for others over time.
How do you instill this sense of philanthropy in your children?
I think the best way is to be an example to your kids. I think if they see that you're involved and that you care, then they're very likely to follow your path. And I think so. We have
definitely lead
we have
by
college,
example.
right? And that's that's what I think the best way to do anything is to lead by example.
As chairs of the main event, can you tell what the purpose of this is?
This event is designed to bring the community together as a whole, an intergenerational event that allows people who are just getting involved in this community to intermingle with people who have been involved in this community for 50 years or more, to understand and appreciate where this community started and how it's progressed forward and where it has to go in the future, to take care of those who are in need, and also to create Jewish continuity in various different ways to make sure that that this community remains strong and continues to understand the importance of the relationship that we have with Jews throughout the world and in Israel as well.
And I also think that it's also important for all of us to understand we may be, we're at a philanthropic event, but also we're all users of all of the services. I know we sent our kids to the JCC for preschool and to camp and the Meyer Academy, and all of those things are services that we're supporting, but we're also using. We're just not, giving money and not enjoying all the things that have been created by this community.
That's true. Besides events like this, how do you think that we can engage the community in Jewish awareness?
Well, that's $1 million question or a multi-million-dollar question, because we've always struggled in every way to find ways to engage people in community activities, whether it's the Jewish community or a broader community. People are so busy in their lives and they have so much that's going on. But I think it really involves making sure people have an understanding in communicating with them as well as possible that there really are substantial needs out there and benefits that they can receive from being part of a broader community, whether it be a benefit from just an internal benefit of feeling good about being part of something, or business benefits, or just becoming friends with people that you never thought you'd ever meet in your life, and being exposed to things that really just wouldn't otherwise be available to you if you don't take part in the community in some particular fashion.
That's very true. On a lighter note, Mo Rocca is your guest speaker tonight. Can you give us a hint of what's going to happen?
I think when we spoke with Mo Rocca on the phone, and he's very excited to talk about intergenerational activity, and he one of the things that he said to us, which I'm sure you'll hear him talk about, is you can learn the most from grandparents. And I think that ties in so well with our event and reaching out to all the different generations that we're going to have present, so that we can hear about how, just different ways that people interact and how important we all are to each other.
Right. And Mo, when we talk to him, he's so lighthearted, so easy to talk with, and brings his sense of humor to all the discussions. But underneath that sense of humor, you can tell there's someone who really cares about people, which is an important component. He's not one of those shock comedians that you really can't tell right away that there's something deeper there. He's got some depth to him. I think people will really appreciate it.
Well, let me tell you something. So do you. And this community is very, very fortunate to have the both of you at a lot of the activities that we do here. So thank you for joining us, and we look forward to enjoying the event.
Thank you for
Susan.
having us.
Appreciate it.
Mo Rocca, do you have any idea what a fan I am of yours?
Well, Barbara, thank you very much. It's just a great welcome to South Florida. Yeah.
I watch you, my mother's ravioli. I mean, I have watched it till whoa. You are so good.
Oh, well, thank you. It's that show in particular is a real joy for me to do. It's so hard not to lapse into cliche talking about it, but it's hard to believe that that's a job. It doesn't feel like a job going to these grandparents' houses.
Well, the way you do
homes.
the way you do it, it's like a conversation that you're having with your best buddy.
Oh, well, that's
It's very easy.
I'm very flattered. The other day, this is such a weird way to start a story. In the men's room at CBS, Charles Osgood was washing his hands as I walked in. He went, you have a very conversational way about you. And I thought, he's a master. And I was just so happy to hear that as in the bathroom.
Listen, we should really start off. I mean, you have such a formidable career. You're a wonderful writer. You're funny as anything. You wrote a book, which I've read.
Oh, okay.
And we'll talk about it later. And you're on TV, and you're really a special, kind of a special overall personality that's engaging. But you're the primary speaker tonight. Yes.
That's pressure, right?
It is pressure?
Well, and now that you put it that way, I mean, now the stakes have gotten really high. No, I don't think, it feels very relaxed here. I mean, I've relaxed enough that I could wear bright green pants. So.
What is the message you're going to give the?
I wanted to talk tonight about, and I will talk tonight about grandparents and what I've learned. Sort of crisscrossing the country for 3 years, cooking with, and more importantly, hearing from different grandparents about sort of the things that matter to them, and it's been kind of an education. It's been reassuring. But that's what I wanted to share. I mean, I feel fortunate that I happen to do a show where the executives in charge aren't terrified of older people. I mean, in fact, I thought when I said I wanted to do a show featuring grandmothers and grandfathers, that they were going to want young hot grandmothers who 38-year-old women who maybe were step grandmothers through some remarriage or something. And then when we said, we've got a 96-year-old man in Florida, in Sarasota, who plays golf 3 times a week, they went, great, the older the better. And so it's been a very nice thing.
Well, what it's done really is it's created a relationship, in a sense. You talk to these people like they're part of your family, and they're from all areas of the country and Europe.
Right.
And somehow or other, you establish a relationship with them. Is it the food?
That's a good question. I think that certainly people who like to cook, are very comfortable in the kitchen. And I have found in my career, and maybe you found the same thing interviewing people, that oftentimes when you're doing another activity, they don't overthink things because they're focused on chopping, and hopefully they don't lose a finger, but they're focused on doing something else, and then stuff just comes out. So I could be with 2 Indian grandmothers from Mumbai, and we're I think using a mortar and pestle on some spice, and suddenly the subject of arranged marriage comes up, and they say very personal and kind of revelatory things about the surprising upside of arranged marriages, and that as they look back after 40 years of marriage on their respective marriages, and I think that in the kitchen when you're cooking, that happens, and maybe it's just a warm place that people associate with family and safe situations.
Well, it's a non-threatening kind of an experience,
Yeah.
First of all, you're doing something tactile.
Right.
And you're moving, and so they don't feel threatened, and so it becomes like a very open, warm relationship.
Yeah. It's not a courtroom.
No. Well, actually, the interesting thing is that I think food is a very big leveler anyway. When I go to a foreign country, I always go to a market. I want to see how the people eat.
Very smart.
I want to see the socioeconomic level of the climate, based on the food that they have there. Food is very basic, so I think you're doing a great job.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'd like to think that sort of the stomach is maybe the portal into a whole lot of other things, because then, culture, family, values, everything, religion, everything seems to come up.
Yeah, speaking of religion, this is a Jewish event, and of course you're not Jewish.
Right.
But you use a lot of Jewish expressions. But tell me, the whole situation is kind of interesting. What's your take on it?
Well, I'll tell you this. Ever since James Caan was nominated for an Oscar for playing Sonny Corleone, I've believed that there is a Jewish-Italian reciprocity. It's an exchange program. It's sort of like a free trade agreement. So Jews can play Italians, Italians can play Jews. I mean, I'm sure Al Pacino has played Jewish people, and then James Caan, of course, played Italian. So it goes back and forth. So there's that whole free trade agreement ethnically. Where was I going with this? And I have noticed, not to get all weird about it, but I love Broadway. I was on Broadway, in 2007, yes. And all the greatest show tunes and standards in general were written by Jewish Americans, with the exception of Cole Porter. But who knows? Maybe Cole Porter was part Jewish. We don't know. Maybe we'll find that out.
For sure.
Hoagie Carmichael, I guess, wasn't. But other than that, I mean, from Irving Berlin to Jerome Kern to Rodgers and Hart, Rodgers and Hammerstein, Lerner and Lowe, Stephen Sondheim, who I just did something with. So anyway, but I have found in doing this grandparent cooking show that my producing partner on this, he's Jewish, and he himself said, all right, no more Jews and Italians. Like, those are the only applicants we're getting.
Really?
Well, you do get a lot of Jewish applicants and Italian applicants. For
the job?
Yeah, for the show. And the Italian maybe is explained by the ravioli. They think it's a show. I mean, we could not have done 4 seasons only on ravioli. I don't know, but it's sometimes finding the other people. Like, we're looking for French. We can't find French.
No, they don't want to come on.
They don't want to go on. You know who doesn't want to go on? And I found this in my television career on other shows, are Chinese. Sorry, I'm really generalizing here, but a lot of Chinese people, if you go to Chinatown in New York, they're really phobic about cameras. And so,
really?
Yeah.
Very private, very private.
Yep.
Yeah.
So maybe it's something cultural, like they're not interested, they're not,
On that note, we'll take a break. We'll be back with the remainder of our program right after this brief message.
When I was young, I went to Jewish summer camp, traveled to Israel, and participated in leadership development groups. Today I'm teaching my children that being part of the Jewish community helps keep our heritage and traditions alive and vibrant, and can be fulfilling, exciting, and fun.
At the age of 90, I started a second career, delivering meals to homebound seniors. Because I'm a senior myself, I know how tough it can get. If somebody is in trouble and needs help, we need to be there for them. As Jews, it's who we are. It's what we do.
When my family needed help, we turned to the Federation, and they were there for us. How good it was for us to know that we are not alone.
Community, like every gift, counts. Together, we can ensure a vibrant Jewish future. Federation and you, changing the world together.
My wife is the light of my life. Being her caregiver is both a joy and a challenge. I'm determined to stick with it, but it can be exhausting. I need support. Morse Life is here to help us. We look forward to seeing them. Morse Life Home Healthcare. Morse Life. Honoring senior living.
Thousands of community members come together through programs and services provided by Federation and our local partner agencies to create a vibrant and vital community in Palm Beach County. Together, we can ensure a vibrant Jewish future. Federation and you, changing the world together.
Welcome back to MOSAIC, and prior to the break, we were talking about all of the exciting people that want to be grandmas on your show. And you tell me that by having them there, doesn't it give you a deep understanding of different cultures too? Don't you make a judgment call on that, or do you?
On sort of how all cultures maybe are related, well, one thing I've noticed is every culture seems to have a version of a dumpling. And I know that sounds silly, but the dumpling is, sometimes at night I dream of the earth as just a spinning dumpling.
Do you really?
No, Ruth taught me kreplach, how to make it and to say it, and chuck roast, not brisket. It's not worth it. The chuck roast is actually tastier anyway. Italians have ravioli. The Poles have pierogi, and I guess so do the Russians. And then the mandu, or the Koreans have mandu, and then obviously the Chinese dumplings. So there's that. The thing that I've learned, though more generational about grandparents, and maybe it's just the ones we've had on this show, but I think it's maybe more widespread, is that grandparents are at a point in their lives generally where they don't really care what people think of them. And I think that's really great, and it's really liberating, and it's really inspiring, because I know I want to get there, like where you just sort of say what's on your mind. And, you know, I've been very dogged, as has my producing partner, was saying that we allow the grandparents on the show to say what they want to say and not to be edited, because the audience will appreciate that they talk like real people.
Well, you don't, can I tell you something? That's what you sense. That's the quality of the program that makes it so inviting. Seriously. Because they do, they feel at home. And when they talk about their dumplings or whatever they talk about, I mean, it's like a real person.
Right. Well, one of the more interesting ones, and I won't get to it in the program tonight, so I'll tell you now, is when we did Sephardic cooking in Deal, New Jersey. And the Sephardic grandmother, in fact, she was really young, beautiful woman, Cheryl Batesh, terrific. But her mother, Claire, wasn't sure she wanted to come on. And the great-grandmother looked like Anne Bancroft in The Graduate. I mean, she was so stunning. She is so stunning. But Claire is much shyer, but we were really comfortable with each other. And then she was talking about marrying outside the faith, and I could see that her daughter was uncomfortable with her saying it on camera. So I had to tell the daughter, who is herself a grandmother, let your mom talk.
Right.
Because I really appreciated it. And Claire said, look, you know, and she got choked up talking about nieces who have married Gentiles. And then she even said after that, I said, well, what about marrying Ashkenazic? And then she said, no, she said, we need to preserve the Syrian Sephardic culture. And you know what? Everyone, I know this is a loaded thing to say, everyone is tribal, like all over the world. It's true. It's, if you can admit it, that's kind of that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I like that.
You know something, and I think you've hit a very important point, because we're living in such a troubled world that if you can find the acceptance of all kinds of people, no matter what, and say, you know, they're funny, they're humorous, they have a right to live, they have a right to speak. Terrific. Listen, before I close this program, I wanted to mention that you wrote a book, 2004, All My President's Pets. Well, I have to tell you, that is the funniest book. You really have such an enormously different way of looking at life. Explain what you did.
Well, you're very kind of being one of probably 300 people who read it. It was not a chart topper, but I loved doing it. I am a hobbyist, love presidential history. I grew up in D.C., so I've always been very interested in it. And somehow I got on this jag where I learned about all of the president's pets. And then I thought, well, why not create do a historical fiction, a historical novel about who's really calling the shots in the White House. So it was a little bit out there, let's say, involving Helen Thomas actually becoming a turkey buzzard that was owned by Millard Fillmore, and it was. But I will tell you, it was fun to learn about the actual pets that had been in the White House. Teddy Roosevelt is my favorite president.
We had a lot of animals.
Yes, he had 36 in the White House. And I love the one-legged rooster that he had, because I always think of Teddy Roosevelt, an asthmatic child who grew up to be our most robust president, like that one-legged rooster just hopping up San Juan Hill and just unstoppable. And that's inspiring.
Listen, can I invite you to come back?
Of course. That's great. I'll fly down here anytime. Thank you, Barbara.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, Arthur Loring.
Well, thank
You're
you.
chairman of the board of our Jewish Federation. Can you tell me what your duties are?
Well, I try to be a leader of the organization. Try to have a dialogue on what we're doing, have a discussion, make a decision, and then try to move the group together to a common purpose based on those decisions. I'm reminded of the conversation that David Ben-Gurion had with President Truman, and I think the organization reminds me of that conversation. They're talking about their responsibilities as leaders of their country, and President Truman is commiserating. I have 100 million people. Everybody's got so many demands. This is the toughest job there is. And he says, well, you think you have it tough. I have 2 million people, but everyone thinks they're the president. So that's like the organization at the Federation. Getting the group together.
No, but you were a president, and then you came back and took it again as an accommodation, really.
Well, it just maybe shows that you never learn.
You never learn.
You never learn.
You know, it's interesting. Susan had asked a question earlier in the program, and I'm always curious about it. You don't mind if I repeat it, but what do you think creates that sense of concern or interest in trying to help a community? What do you think? Where does it come from?
Well, I think maybe some of my upbringing, although I wasn't in a very substantial Jewish community when I grew up. And I devoted my career in business and didn't have as much opportunity to try to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So when I came to Florida, I made one of my goals to try to help the community in more ways than I've been able to do up until then, and undertook to learn the community and try to get involved.
Mm.
You and Vicki are involved in so many different organizations. How do you pick and choose to spend your time and energy?
There are many very worthwhile organizations in this area. I think the Federation we looked at as the one that really is encompassing more people and helping more people than many of the other organizations. We have an international partners, helping Jews in Israel around the globe between the Jewish Agency for Israel and the Joint Distribution Committee, as well as the local agencies which are helping thousands of people in our community who really are in need of various kinds of assistance. And that seemed to be the most impactful in terms of reaching people that were in need of help.
You know, you're such a modest man, literally, and you are the honoree tonight for this legendary award, that the Jean Levy Award, which is really remarkable. I mean, she was a remarkable woman. What does that feel like to get something like that?
Well, it was quite a surprise when I was advised that they were thinking about this. There are many leaders in this community who could have earned this award, and it's very humbling to be selected as the first recipient of the Jean Levy Award. And I am humbled and very proud of having
She was a
received
remarkable
it.
woman.
She really was, and as she was, you are a pillar of the community, and congratulations, and we wish you the best.
Well, I thank you very much.
Yeah, it was really a pleasure.
Mo Rocca was so entertaining.
Yes, it was wonderful. It really was, but what was so impactful, really, is the fact that it's a legacy, a memory of Jean Levy, and Arthur Loring was the lucky man to get it.
Yes, it's really quite an honor. Thank you for joining us, and join us again next week when we take another look into the Jewish world. Goodbye from MOSAIC.